Most people think that business is something you figure out after college, after the degree, after the internships, and after all of that. But what if you're already doing it at 18? Well, welcome to Biz and Banter, the podcast where we cut through the noise and actually talk about how it takes to build something from scratch, be it startups, partnerships, marketing, leadership, and it's all from people who are actually living it, not just teaching it. I'm your host, Hazel, and this is episode one. And honestly, we are starting with someone who already had me shook before even we hit the record. Her name is Arushi Chotani. We welcome you, Arushi. She's a teenager. She's led a team of 40 people. She's worked across multiple startups, handled partnerships, hiring, finance. And the fun fact is that she's still in school. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Hi Hazel, thank you so much for having me. And I think the introduction sums up pretty much everything. And you've made it sound better than it actually is. So there's that.
So, yeah, welcome, Arushi. Okay, so first things first, how did this even start? Okay, like most students your age, they are worried about exams, they have their academic responsibility, but you are out there joining startup teams and taking on leadership roles, and you have your own startup as well. That is an automation startup, and it's called Autony. So, walk me through how that happened.
I think it's always been a part of me. It's something that was with me since I was a kid, and it got real when I stopped just being a contributor in other projects and became someone who people would like to reach out to. And so I think that shift from doing and being responsible for outcomes is what when I thought that okay, this is what I actually want to keep doing and not just participating. I wanted to build, I wanted to lead, I wanted to leave a mark. And once you start, it's pretty addictive. So yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's really cool, Arushi. And would you want to walk us through any specific moment where you thought, okay, yeah, this is something I really want to do?
I think it's always, as I said, been a part of me. When I was a kid, I would love to, take charge in group projects and assign people tasks and make sure everything was done before the deadline. I always had, backup content or backup project ready if people failed to, submit on time. So there's always something I had a knack for, and I think we can call that a starting point. Maybe that be it.
Okay, so we can say that it's God-gifted skill, right? You had that in you since long. Okay.
I think it's also because, being the eldest sibling, being someone who's always been responsible, having to take care of your stuff, I think that also really influences.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that does. Okay, so you have worked as a director of partnerships and hiring, which is a title most people don't even reach out to until way later in their careers. What does that role actually look like day to day, and what's the real work behind building partnerships for a startup?
I think the startups that I've worked for, as a, um, like been the director of partnerships, I think most of the times that's just like the title and it doesn't really capture half of the work that you have to do while being at it. So when you're in a core team and you're building something from the ground up, you just have to be all over the place. There's no such thing as this is your role, just your role. One day you're shooting and editing reels for social media, the next day you're trying to pull up your contacts and you're reaching out to the people that you know for partnerships. You're sitting in finance discussions, you're reviewing legal stuff, you're helping with hiring. So it's all in the same week. And if I specifically talk about partnerships, I think it would be being a part of different communities that align with your company and the company that you're working for. Also, being an active member in those societies, in those communities, talking to people who hold positions in those places, then reaching out through cold emailing and reaching out to brands through social media platforms, which might be like good for your partnerships and maintaining a relationship with them. You need to continuously keep talking to them. You need to show that you're credible, that being a teen, being in young adult, like a young adult founder, I think it's very important that you establish that sort of credibility, and that happens through the partnerships department because you're the face of the company for other people. So I think that is a little bit about partnerships and startups.
Okay, that sounds amazing. And how do people, get you, especially adults? Because as a student, or you may see a teenager, it's very difficult to, we can say, give your opinions, present your opinions in front of adults, and then, them agreeing to it. So it's a very big deal. So how did you, do that?
I think the key is to stop trying to make people, um, like forget your age and start to make your decisions, your work speak for you. The moment you walk in generally prepared and not just confident, like actually prepared, knowing your stuff, the conversation shifts from who are you to what you can offer. So I think people respond to whether you know what you're talking about, and I try to make sure that I mostly always did what I'm like know about what I'm talking about.
So that's a really positive thing to whosoever is going to listen to this podcast. It's a really positive thing that you've told us. And we also got to know that you've, led a team of around 40 people. So so whatever you told right now, was that the key to managing all of them?
Yeah, I think it was a huge part of it. It's mostly about your framework, about your structure. Those are the things that I think I leaned on the most. So when you have 40 people, you can't be everywhere, right? So you need to build systems. You need to trust the right people within the team to their own lanes. And my job was to make sure everyone knew what they were working towards and why it mattered. And I wasn't responsible for micromanaging every task. That's something that you should avoid at all costs, because if you try to get into everyone's business, it's going to be a problem for you as well as them. So know whom to assign what, and know how to take feedback or like progress updates. You need to have like that sort of a framework that works for you, and that framework building comes through experience. And yeah, I think you should really put yourself out there to test your leadership skills, because even if you're not really looking forward to a startup or a role which requires you to be in a leadership position, I think even managing your daily tasks, or by managing your life in general, time management, all of that, these are the skills which are very adjacent to what I'm talking about, like managing people. So if you can manage yourself, you can manage people, and vice versa. And honestly, people, coming back to the teamwork, people don't really follow titles. They follow someone who's very clear and who follows through, like who actually listens. So once I understood that, I think it became a lot less about what my age was, what like how much experience I've had, and it really shifted towards how much I was consistent and how much I tried to listen.
That is really, really nice, Arushi. Like, I would say that it's really great that you really put your efforts into understanding whosoever you're working with and listening them actually, because it takes a lot of efforts to listen to a lot of people's opinions and then working according to them and then making them hear you. All right. So yeah, that's a great thing. So, moving on, every startup, hits a wall at some point, right? What's the hardest situation you've had to handle, and what did you actually do about it?
I think the hardest situations are where something isn't working and everyone can feel it, but then no one's really saying it out loud. And the ideal thing would be to fix it immediately, but your instinct will tell you to let it pass, let it ride, and hope it fixes itself. I've learned that the longer that you sit with the problem, the longer that you wait, the more expensive it gets in time, in team morale, in trust, in the flow, everything, like the momentum. So what I've found uh, that actually works is that you need to name the problem, and you need to be very direct about it without dressing it up. People respect directness over, you know, waiting for it to subside eventually, and it's better when you've named it, you can actually solve it and get done with it. It is very hard to start with that, but that's the right thing to do. And one such situation or something I can put a finger on would be crisis management in any startup. It's not a smooth path. You'll have a lot of people disagreeing with something. You'll have small obstacles. You'll have bigger obstacles in views, opinions, everything really, management. So I think address it as soon as you can and get over with it.
That's great. So, I'd say that as per what I have, concluded after hearing you, it's that stop lingering on things and just, get the things straight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, moving on, this is a really interesting part, I would say. You were a part of Restless Dreamers Fellowship, okay, where you got into finance, public policy, economics, and this was a lot of heavy stuff, I'd say. How did learning all of that change the way you see startups and business decisions? Or if you want to tell us about any of the experience you had that, in the fellowship.
Right. So I think, firstly, talking about how it helped me, I think it really gave me a framework that I didn't have before. I come from a science background, so I really didn't know much about the theory of all of these topics that you mentioned, and but somewhat they were always like some parts of it were very intuitive for me. So I'd figure things out by doing them. The fellowship gave me the formal language and the numbers behind it, and I could now not just like sense that something was off in a business model, but actually articulate why, and point to the metric, explain the implication, the numbers, all of that. And it also made me a lot less intimidated by financial conversations, which a lot of young people, are scared of, or like maybe they leave the numbers to someone else, and that's a mistake I'm glad I didn't stick with. So I think, yeah, that was it, and I really benefited. If I have to specifically talk about some of my experiences, I think I really benefited from understanding the math of a lot of things that I couldn't really explain to people I was talking about, or people started taking me more seriously when I could actually name what I'm talking about in formal terms, or maybe articulate it as numbers, as figures. And we had case discussions. We always had these solvathons on weekends, which really helped me to solve um, real life cases. Like these were always real life cases, but then you had other team members working with you. You got to know their opinions. You had other teams presenting. You had judges giving you feedback, and all of these people coming from a business background as undergrad students in these fields. So it was really helpful.
That's amazing. And from your experience at the fellowship, is there
Yeah.
something that you would want to advise any young entrepreneur upon?
Um, I think I think it would be about the unglamorous stuff, the economics, the numbers, the policy context that your business operates in. That's what separates people from, that's what separates people who scale from the people who would stall. And you don't have to be an economist, you don't have to be a strategist, but you just have to be literate in those fields, and you should know your numbers, you should know your market. I think that's a starting point, and that's like the bare minimum if you really want to get into this.
That's great. Even I would take up that advice in my future. That's really amazing. So, something that I find really interesting about your story is that you've consistently been one of the high schoolers in spaces full of college students and professionals, and we've even talked about it before as well. So, is it intimidating, exciting, or is it both?
It is very exciting, and honestly, it's addictive as well. As I mentioned before, when you get used to, getting into these spaces or challenging the norms, or like, just getting out there and experiencing new things. Well, when people who are with you are many years ahead of you in terms of academics and all that, it's like one of the biggest advantages. Also, I would say, when it doesn't feel like it even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, because when you're the youngest in the room, it's generally always hard to get into it. People notice, they would try to I mean, no, ageism is also a very real thing. So it's when you're a novelty, people usually think about it, and they kind of question you harder than they would really question their peers. So it's something that takes a lot to. I mean, you need to understand well to be present in that room, and you have to outwork and out prepare people who had more time and more resources than you. So, and it's, being in those rooms early means that you're building context, you're building vocabulary and relationships at an age when most people are still figuring out what field they even want to be in. So, but like, to sum it all, I think the compounding effect over the time is massive, and I would really recommend you to, test your limits and go out there and explore.
Amazing. That's really amazing. Okay, so now we're gonna do a really fun activity, you may say. It's the rapid fire round. And just gear up yourself and just go with the flow with all the questions that I'm gonna ask you. Okay, so one business book or resource that actually changed how you think.
I think I would call experiences for this one, if that's okay. That would be a resource, I think, not necessarily a book. That
Yeah.
people's experiences, my experiences, have really completely changed the way I think. So I think it'd be experiences.
All right, all right. So would you want to share one of that?
It's just, all, if I put together everything again, it only makes sense when you look back at it. You can't really tell while you're living in that moment. So it's like, yeah.
All right. So it's all the experiences that you've had so far, right?
Yeah, yeah,
All
and it
right.
really changes the way you look at words. Yeah, that's something I would say.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so how would you name startup life in one word?
I would say compounding.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, moving on. Biggest myth about young entrepreneurs.
Oh yeah, I think it would be that passion is enough, which it is not. It's only helpful when you also have preparation to go along.
Okay, that's really nice. I love the answers that you're giving. Okay, so something you wish someone told you before your first leadership role.
It would be okay. Yeah. So I think it would be being liked and being effective are two different jobs, and your task is, or the reason that you're there for is the second one.
Okay, all right. Okay, so coffee or chaos? What fuels you more?
Neither, because I mean I try to avoid caffeine, and chaos is something I work against, not with. So I like structure,
Okay, so what actually fuels you?
structure, certainty, having, kind of knowing what you're walking into.
Okay, that's great. Okay, and one skill every student should start building right now.
Learning how to learn fast.
Great, that's great. And the last one, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Um, Probably somewhere that I haven't fully thought of yet, which is exactly how I want it to be.
Oh, that's it. So
Every
you
year
wanted
you're
to be
inching
very
a bit.
adventurous. Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
And
not necessarily adventurous, but something that, every year you kind of can just think about a place, maybe in a better place than you were last year. So I just want to keep aiming a little higher. So yeah, I really
oh,
don't want to
that's
limit myself like that.
okay. That's amazing. So, the last question, or you may say a proper question, would be if a student is listening to this right now and they want to get into startups or business roles. So, what advice would you be giving them? And yeah, what should they actually do about this, about having interest in all these fields?
Um, I would say stop waiting for the perfect entry point and just start somewhere real. Apply to a startup, even if it's a small one, do some actual work. Not just like not for a LinkedIn title or resume line, just to figure out what problems you're genuinely good at solving. And here's something I really believe that the things that you enjoy the most are usually the things that you already have some natural edge in. right? Not necessarily the easiest things, but the things where you'll perform well. So you
Hmm.
should lean into that, because that's what builds confidence, and confidence is what gets you in more rooms. That's what keeps you going. But don't confuse interest with readiness. If you're genuinely interested in something and you want to get into something, prepare for it properly, and don't walk in underprepared hoping that enthusiasm will carry you out, and not just like maybe interest carries you out. Don't think about it that way, because it won't. And preparation is what actually turns interest into performance and outcomes. So performance is what gets you taken seriously, especially if you want to start out young and want to be in spaces that most people your age wouldn't be in. So invest time in learning about the topic. And one more thing would be invest time in learning some concepts of psychology, because it really helps you to read the room and also understand people better, so you know what people might expect from you and how to deliver them.
Okay, that's a really nice advice, I'd say, and I would really, advise others to implement this advice in their lives, especially if they're the young ones getting into these fields. Okay, so Arushi, honestly, this has been such a good and you may say a quick conversation. Thanks for being the first guest on Biz and Banter, and I don't think I could have asked for a better one to kick things off. And to everyone who's listening, if this got you thinking, share it, talk about it, and we'll see you on the next one. This is Vision Banter, and we are just getting started. Thank you so much, Arushi, for being here.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me.